guys, welcome back. So this is another one of our indie game presentations, and I've really been enjoying the series, so I'm going to try to keep it going. I may only do one or two games a week, but we will see. I picked up a couple interesting games I'm interested in showing, so and I think most of you guys like it. I got some good comments on Pig Wars and A Good Day to Die, which I definitely want to play another game of A Good Day to Die. Today we are looking at a set of rules called A Fatal Blow. These are sold through Drive-Thru RPG. They involve man-to-man medieval combat miniature war game. And I created these rules many years ago. I want to say now maybe 12 or 13 years ago. I don't really sell them to make money. They're just out there. I've kind of not revised it, but I kind of updated the art and stuff a few years back. And I'm actually thinking of updating the format, maybe doing it in a hardback or a different type. This is kind of a cover that's just available through, I don't know, I think it might have been Kindle or Amazon or one of them, or maybe even Ingram. So I'm thinking of doing my own real cover and just updating some of the interior graphics and things. The game itself, I really like. There's a few kind of typos and things I want to go and correct. But for the time being, like I said, it's not a game that I'm trying to commercialize. It's just available for people that are interested on Drive-Thru RPG. I think it sells for like $9.99 on there, but I may create a code and put it in my in the comments that if you want to pick up a copy, maybe they'll do like a 50% off or something like that. So I don't really doing it for the money. But so Fatal Blow is a man-to-man medieval game. And the reason I called it medieval is because I don't really have rules for like goblins and orcs and fantasy things in there. But I'm actually thinking of updating it to do that, but I just haven't done it. These kind of rules are not easy to create, to be honest with you. If anybody's ever done a real set of rules, I mean, there's constantly things. As soon as you change one thing, you got to go look and see what else that changed. But I am thinking of doing that, and I'm thinking of adding a campaign section to it. But for the time being, the game is designed for skirmish games, kind of set in the medieval era. And the concept behind the game is you can play with the ideal amount of figures, I would say, is 5 or 6 per side. It's not a solo game, although I play it solo. But it's about 5 or 6 per side, mainly because you do have to keep track of each man's wounds in this game. But if you have a base or a tab or other things I've seen in the past where people can kind of mark the wounds that a particular figure has, then, I mean, you could play with any number of figures and really enjoy yourself. So in the game, you are going to, and I'm going to skip over this, you're going to have basically 3 types of figures. You will either have a captain, a champion, or a trooper. And the type of figure you play with will determine how many activation cards they get. And their cards are I use standard playing cards. And what you do is you would select a suite or a suit or a number to represent that figure. And whenever that comes up, that figure would get a turn and be able to do some actions. So you're going to have your typical miniature wargaming stats. You have movement, which is kind of standard based on the type of character. So like all humans would move 6 inches. Maybe elves would move 8 and so forth. So like individual characters do not have a movement stat. You have your defense value, your attack value, which they are pretty much what they sound like, your accuracy, your strength, your initiative, your will, your discipline, your strikes, and your wounds, and your size, and kind of your level. And so most of those stats you don't really need in a regular game. Those are kind of more for special scenarios. But mostly in a regular game, it will be your attack, your defense, your strikes, your wounds, and your discipline. So like the game is not initiative based, so initiative wouldn't really be used a lot. in this game, but there are situations where you would need to know a character's initiative. So once you determine what you're going to put together, and I don't have really points in the game, which is something, maybe I could look at, but I've never been a big fan of points, but I understand why they're useful. You will put together a card deck, and your card deck will be based on your composition of your army and stuff, and I will show you that when I show you the playthrough that I have set up. But basically, like I told you, the type of character you bring will determine their cards. I've got some other things like heroes would get 5 cards. So they're actually kind of higher than captains, who get 4, I think. Monsters get 3. Dragons get 3. And even though I said they're not in the game, obviously I just put them in there if you wanted to kind of make up your own. So after that, we talked about our movement. We talked about our troop types. There's actions. In every round, a character can do one action when their card comes up. They can move, they can charge, they can do a close combat, meaning if they're already in combat, they can do a shooting action and a special action. A charge action basically allows you to move and then you get a free close combat action. So that's why there's a difference between close combat and charge and between movement and charge. Captains, because they have 4 cards, a captain may perform any action when his card is drawn, regardless of whether he's done that action before, except he may not do more than 2 move actions. But a captain could do 4 combats. He could do 4 charges, 4 shootings. Or he could do 2 movements and 2 combats, 2 movements and 2 shootings. Captains are very powerful in this game. Even though in this game I'm not going to be using a captain because I'm trying to balance this out a bit. And I've got some other videos showing where I've had captains in the game. If you look at the playlist. And I may create a Fatal Bow playlist, but I think they're just in my playthrough videos. Captains also have command actions, which basically they can order everyone that hasn't acted yet to do the same thing. So say there's a big creature and the captain's card comes up. He can order everyone to immediately charge that's under his command, as long as they haven't acted. So if they've shot, for example, they couldn't do that unless they have more than 1 action, which most troopers don't. They have 1. But that is a command action that a captain can do. Champions get, I believe, 2 or 3 cards in the deck. Let me double check that. Champions get 3 cards, but they cannot do any action. It says they may perform any action up to twice in a turn, including movement. And so a turn is a complete evolution through the deck. Once the deck is exhausted, that's 1 turn. It gets reshuffled. Obviously you take out any cards for people that were killed, and that's the end of a turn. So a champion has 3 cards that will come up, but he can not do any action. Says he can perform any action up to twice in a turn. So to kind of clarify what I'm saying, because I'm talking over myself. A champion with his 3 cards could fight twice, could move twice, could charge twice. He could not do any action 3 times, right? So his 3rd turn, he would have to do something different. Unlike a captain that could do three actions other than movement. Troopers can only perform 1 action at a time other than a charge, in which case they can use their move action or charge action to move and then get a free close combat. When you engage another figure in combat, both of you will fight. So a figure that is being attacked does not need an action to defend itself. Once you attack it, it attacks you. Now, it cannot do anything other than that, other than defend itself, but it does get to defend itself. So it's not like you would sit around and let a guy attack your guys and see what happens. If he charges you, you're going to roll, he's going to roll every time. And that's another thing about the game where even though your characters might have a lot of wounds, it looks like they will go through those wounds quickly. So it makes it very easy to keep track of the play. Because even though you may start with 12 guys, 6 of them may be gone in the first turn. So it makes it, progressively easier. You're pretty much your champions, your captains, your heroes are going to hang around. So you can do moving out of combat or breaking away. Although when you break away, if you are in a combat, you have to be careful because it could turn into a rout. So when you break away, you have to make a resolve check, which is you roll on your discipline. And if you fail that check, you have to keep going in the direction you were going until next turn when you try to make another resolve or discipline check. Otherwise, you are just going to keep fleeing. So that is the thing you have to be careful with breaking away. I do not know if they get a free strike against you when you break away. So it doesn't say, although I will try to play one of those out to show you how that works. I explained the charge action, close combat. Shooting, you have an accuracy. It's modified by your weapons modifier. And you want to roll lower than that number. Which normally in this game, you want to roll higher. Right, and so I will explain that when we play. But I think shooting is the only one where like a 20 is actually a bad result. Whereas normally when you roll a 20, that is a good result. And I will explain that too. That's kind of the one quirk in these rule sets is that shooting. So if you have an accuracy of 8 in shooting, you'd want to roll 8 or less. Whereas if you have an attack value of, 9, I guess you'd want to roll 9 or higher on a d20. I'll explain that because you wouldn't roll 9 or higher. It would be a number subject to the other person's defense. You can do aiming. You can do special actions. So it says rolling 20 on a d20. Anytime a character rolls a result of 20 on a d20, that attack does double its damage. Now, the game uses what are called damage dice, which are always d6s. And so the way it works is if you have a weapon that does 3d6 damage, right, then you would roll 3d6s. 5s are always 1 wound. 6s are always 2 wounds. In some attacks, like a charge, a 4 is 1 wound. Normally, a 4 is not a wound if you are in close combat. But in a charge, it's 1 wound. So in this attack, you would have done 1, 2, 3, 4 points of damage. Right? And so if you have a character that can only take 3 points of damage, he might be dead just off of that attack. Next up, damage. I just showed you damage. Some characters do get saving throws, which are made on a d20 die. And that is if they are wearing armor. So if you are wearing armor, for example, and you have a saving throw of 9, it says you roll 9 or higher on 2 d20 dice to save the wounds. So if I have a saving throw because of my armor of 9, anything 9 or higher and I would save. So these, I would not have saved either of those wounds. So that's how saving throws work. You can swing and miss. If you roll a 1 when you are attacking somebody, that is a miss. And not only the person you're attacking, but everyone that is in base contact with you will get a free strike. If you are attacking somebody and you roll a 1, they get I don't know if they get a free strike, but they get a d6 added to their attack the next time they attack. But they have to use it the next time they attack. Which obviously would mean when they were defending themselves. Unless they've already rolled, then they would use it the next time. Push back and knock down. We did that. Range combat, expert range. We can get into that later. Combat modifiers. Throwing a weapon. You can throw your weapon. Which is actually usually what you would use your accuracy score. And I think you add your strength to that. And you would need to roll that on a d20 to equal or higher than that on a d20. So all ranged weapons have a range of 3 plus the strength value. So your strength can help you throw weapons further. These are your weapons: attack, armor piercing, which is basically which will penetrate armor. There's special attacks and things that certain weapons allow special things like a parry, support, thrown, or assist. And we will use some of those. Assist basically means you could use two weapons at once. Support means you can attack somebody from behind another character. Parry means you can lower your chance of hitting them in order to lower their chance of hitting you by 4. We have armor, and in this game, armor basically, I think I talked about it, it's kind of like a saving throw to save against wounds. Let me see here. So there's certain wounds you would block with armor. Shields, on the other hand, deduct from the damage, as well as they increase your defense. So a shield will increase your defense and also increase the amount of damage die your opponent writes. So it's nice because in this game, shields and armor are two very different things. Characters with shields, even without armor, will have a benefit, and characters with armor, even without shields, will have a benefit. So unlike games where, if you have a shield, you get +1 to your defense. If you have armor, you get another +1. They do totally different things in this game, and each shield is different. Broken armored and shattered shields. It says if a 20 is rolled and your opponent has a shield, he must roll a d6 or his shield might be destroyed. Whenever you roll a 20, your armor has been permanently damaged and its armor value is reduced by 1. Some of this stuff is optional. But say you have armor that is, 7 or whatever. If somebody rolls a 20, that armor would permanently be reduced to 6. So you could actually start to degrade people's armor in the game too. There's helmets, which you get a +1 to their armor value unless wearing partial plate armor, which there's no modifier. A character wearing a helmet but no other armor is considered to have a nominal armor value of 1, which I don't even know what your save would be, maybe like an 18. Morale, these is when you resolve morale checks, which is you roll equal or lower than their discipline score on a d20. And there's things that talks about when to check morale. If there's a death of a captain, death of over half the group. So I keep morale simple. Other combat actions, you can do blocking, which is sort of like your zone of control, which means a model cannot move past an enemy model if it comes within 2 inches of the area around that model, unless that model is completely surrounded with other models. Otherwise, any model that enters an enemy's model zone of control must close and come into base contact with that model or end its movement and wait until its next turn. And so what the zone of control does, it allows you to, it keeps somebody from running past one character to get to another, kind of unrealistically ignoring them. And it creates a zone of control. We may see that in this game, because in this game, one of the objectives I want is kind of a kill the leader. And so you will be able to see where his men can maybe establish a zone of control around him where the enemy cannot get to him without killing some of them. You have something called other combat actions, which is fleeing. So like I said, when you attempt to flee a combat, you move your entire movement plus 1d6 toward the nearest table edge. Once they reach the table edge, or if they get 12 inches or further from any enemy figure, they are removed from play. So if you go into a fleeing state, the minute you're 12 inches from an enemy figure or you're off the table, your figure comes off. You have a pursuit, you have rallying. Anytime a character or group flees, the captain or champion may attempt to rally them before they reach the table edge. Instead of using their normal action, a captain can use an action to rally any fleeing characters within 12 inches. A captain can rally all fleeing figures within range at once. A champion, instead of using an action, may attempt to rally one fleeing figure within 8 inches of him. So a captain could rally 3 or 4 guys that are in a fleeing state. A champion can only try to rally one at a time. Okay? It doesn't really say if there's a role for the rally. I think it would just be an action that you use to rally them. Or maybe they would have to make a discipline check. I will have to double check that in my figure table. So there's fist fights. We probably won't see any of those. Picking up, drawing weapons, knockouts and fist fights. Monsters, creatures, mounted, unmounted. We won't be using that. War horses. I have used mounted roos in my other playthrough. I had a mounted knight. They're very powerful. Knights on the charge are very powerful. So this talks about captains and Fatal Blow. It says captains are powerful characters in the game of Fatal Blow. They are usually not only the best fighters and best equipped in their group, they are also the group's overall leader. As its leader, the captain has the ability to exert his control over the group as a whole. Some of these are described below. And so captains have certain special things they can call out. One of them is I'll take him. After all characters have used their actions, but before the next turn commences, a captain may switch opponents with any other character in this group that is within his movement value. So basically, if somebody's ganging up on one of your weaker characters, your captain can switch places with him before the next deck is started or shuffled. By my will, says when making morale checks, any character within 6 inches of the captain may use his discipline value instead of their own. So those are two very powerful things for a captain. Then there's some terrain rules, which I don't know if we're going to be using those. Talks about characteristic checks. To make a check where is a particular characteristic like initiative or will. All checks are resolved by rolling a d20 where a roll equal to or lower than the appropriate characteristic means the character has passed. So when you're making characteristic checks, you want to roll lower than it. So if somebody has a 9 for will, you need a 9 or less to pass that, which is, it's going to be a little bit more difficult on a d20. There's some optional facing rules if you're like using a hex map, which I have, but I don't know if I'm going to use them. The facing rules are good if it's just 2 or 3 opponents. Then I have some optional special skills where you can give your character skills like Assassin, Amazon, Berserker, Barbarian, Cleric, Fighter, Warrior, Paladin, Knight. So these are all optional just to add more flavor, and they all have their own special rules. Ranger, Samurai, Marksman, Gladiator. And talks about using more skill at a time. These are some traits such as fear, flammable, insubstantial, impervious, courageous, and devout. So you won't really see them in the basic game. These are some of my designer notes. And that is pretty much the end of the rules. So it's about 30 pages altogether, but a lot of that is text and information, and there's the easy reference chart in the back. So we are going to, I'm going to explain the scenario I'm going to play today, and we'll be back and get into it. Okay, so the scenario I set up for this game, I was going to use the, I guess I should tell you guys, I was going to use the Warhammer skirmish rules to do a scenario, but one of the problems I had when I went through the scenarios were some of them had too many troops for me really to keep track of. A lot of them had special things like zombies and things which I didn't really have rules for in the game, or at least not yet. So I decided I was going to hold up on using any of the scenarios. There's one I wanted to do, which was this one, Bones to Pick. But I want to make some of these custom casualty piles. And that was the same thing with a few of these. I just wanted to be able to represent them well, like Troll Under the Bridge. I'm waiting for a set from Reaper from their last Kickstarter that will give me a troll under a bridge. You get some knights and it's retinue. So I definitely want to play that one. But I want to have the scenery. So I didn't want to really sit here and spend another 2 or 3 days coming up with scenery just to show you guys a feel of the game. Now, the first thing you're going to do when you pick out your characters, and if you go to the back of the rules, it will give you a roster of characters, as you can see here, with their stats and things. So say you want to have a knight and 2 squires. That's going to be their block lines. There's also more information on here as far as just a little bit more extra blurbs on what these characters can do. You can see my markup there on some of them. So when I always like to mark these up, so when I go back and redo them, I know what to correct. But it kind of tells you what they're armed with and so forth. So For this game, I am using 4 men-at-arms, 2 men-at-arms with crossbows, 4 men-at-arms with swords, and I have 1 champion. I am not using a captain on purpose because I think it would unbalance the game. But this champion is going to have the stats of a sergeant. So when you see the game being played, remember he's a sergeant. Now they are armed as equipped. So all of these guys have short swords and shields, which you will see those come into play. These are considered round shields. The sergeant has a kite shield. Both of these just have their crossbows. I may give them a dagger or something if they get in a hand-to-hand. They are going to be opposed by the forces you see at the further end of the table, which is a goblin horde. Now, I don't have any goblin rules, so I am running these as serfs, which is kind of like your lowest grade of figures. There are 4 goblins with short bows, 4 goblins with spears, and 4 goblins with shields and long knives, which they look like swords to them, but I'm counting them as long knives. The goblins have no leader, so they have no champion or any captain. And I'm hoping that will kind of balance things out. There's 12 figures of goblins. There is a total of 7 figures that are opposing them. And so on this side, I just kind of pointed it out by wounds. So I think they have about 36 wounds at 3 wounds each. This side average is about 5 wounds each, so that would be 35 wounds if we're looking at the sergeant and his forces. So 35 to 36. The sergeant and them should win this game. But based on the scenario, I mean, they may not. The scenario is simple. The sergeant and his retinue are trying to break through this area. The goblins have been waiting on him. They do not want him to get through. And their goal is going to be to try to kill the sergeant. So these guys are here to protect the sergeant and see that he gets through to the other end of the board. Once he exits the end of the board, or once all of the threats are killed, the game will end. Now, having said that, I will say that the card distribution works. So I'm using black cards for their side. I'm using red for the other side. And that you can do that. If you're playing with more than 2 people, you might use suites like hearts, clubs, diamonds. But you should have some way of knowing when a particular group's card comes up. So in this example, for the 4 guys with swords, they all have, I think I gave them spades. So whenever a spade comes up, one of them can act. For the 2 with crossbows, I gave them clubs. Black clubs. Whenever these come up, one of them can act. And for the champion, I gave him 2 face cards. So whenever a black face card comes up, he will act. So that's that half of the deck. The other half for the goblins. For the archers, I gave them the face cards. Whenever a face card comes up, one of the ones that are armed with short bows can act. For the spears, I gave them diamonds. Red diamond, and for the swords, red hearts. So that way I know whenever a card comes up, who is allowed to act on that card. I mean, obviously, if you have custom cards, or if you have some way, if you want to write on your card, you could do that. You know, you could just take a pen and write the name on there, knight, squire, goblin, or whatever. But you just want to have some way. Most figures, you should have 1 card per figure. Again, other than champions and captains and so forth. So in this game, the humans do have a champion. They do not have a captain. Because I knew if they had a captain, it would not be fair. They would beat these guys, and you will see how that plays out. So the way you start is you simply shuffle the deck, and I'm going to shuffle this a few times, and you pull the first card to see who goes first. You want to have D20s, obviously. You know, at least 4 or 5 D20s. The rulebook said a D10. I don't know why I put D10 in there. That might have been for something else. And D6s. You need a lot of D6s. because a lot of your damage dice, 4 damage. And then the way the game works, you will add dice depending on what you're doing. So you could potentially, in some rolls, be throwing 10 damage dice if you're lucky. Okay, so having done that, we are going to start the first turn. And I'm going to move these guys back because they are starting, within 2 of their edge. And their goal is to get him to the other side safely. So I'm setting them up. I can set them up anywhere within 2 of the edge here. And so remember, they have a zone of control and other things like that. I am going to start them within 2 as well. So I'll show you these guys down here that they're going to be moving. Obviously, if somebody can get to the middle and get an archer up there on that elevation, that might be significant. Okay, so we're ready to begin the first turn. And I've got my card deck here. I may move that out of camera, but I figured I'd let you guys see it for now. One thing, I think I need some tokens. Okay, so if you're playing a skirmish game where you track wounds, I really like these, which you get from, I think it's the HeroScape game, where you stack these kind of bloody tokens. Another alternative is something like this. So if you are using very little dice like that, they're kind of colored. I mean, you can even put a little piece of sticky tack or something on them, and you can actually stick them right to their bases, which I'm not going to be doing. Or you can even model them in there and just drop them on the base, which I don't know. I just usually find somewhere to sit them on the base. So we're going to start with the first card, and it is a black, so I know it's going to be for this side here. And it is a face card, which means it is for the champion, which is usually what you want. Now, if he was a commander, a captain, he could give everyone an order to just move up. And then when their cards came up, if they've already activated, we would just put them off to the side. But he's only a champion, so he's not a captain. So that means he can do a move action, charge action, close combat action, shooting action, or a special action. So at this point, I don't even know if he's going to do anything on that, because I don't think he wants to get ahead of his men. There's nobody in range of him, so we're going to pull the next card. This is an 8 of a diamond, so that would be one of their spears, which is probably not bad for them. They can get a move action, humans and so forth. Goblins move 8 inches. I don't know. I didn't know that was even in here, but I just looked it up on the quick reference. So they will move 8 inches. So they will close on combat quick in this game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that goblin has already kind of appeared. The next card, they can only do one thing, is a black club. So that will be the humans again. I think I said the clubs are the crossbows. So this crossbowman here, he cannot move and fire. Right now, he's kind of blocked there. You can't shoot through people in this game. Or I could use this crossbowman. So I could move him up. And I think they would like to try to get to that ridge. So I'm going to move him. You can't move through people. You just can't shoot through them. So humans go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he is starting to make his way there. Next card. A 5 heart. That's one of the swordsmen. They can move 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now the swordsmen do not want to get on the hill, but they want to get it for their archers. And then I'll check the rules if anybody gets close enough to how they can get up there or how many turns it takes. Next card. A 5 of a spade. That is one of our men-at-arms. They can move 6 plus 1 d6 if they do a charge. Now this looks far away between these two, but he may be within range of charging him. Normally you cannot measure. Obviously, you would go 1d6 and then hope you got there, because you can have a failed charge. Obviously, I can count the hexes since I'm playing solo, and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 2. So wait, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I would need to roll a 2 on a D6 for that charge, for his charge to go through. The problem is, I think if I charge him up there, some of the other goblins, which you can kind of see in the background, I think he may be stuck up there next turn and really fighting for his life by himself. But the charge is very powerful, and if they get a card next turn, they are going to be able to do some charges, and these goblins almost need to do charges to do any real damage. So I am really kind of torn on whether or not to let him try that charge. I mean, he can take a couple of wounds, and he could maybe tie them up, create a zone of control where they couldn't run by him. But I don't know, man. This is kind of a hard choice to make. I'd have to roll. So long as I didn't get a 1, the charge would go through. And it's a lot of benefits on the charge. He would probably kill that guy, to be honest. But that means he might get charged next turn. Because if they get 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, they will probably be able to just charge him back next turn. And there's more of them than us. This is not... And see, the champion cannot move this turn. The champion cannot move. So I'm going to move him up, but I'm not going to do the charge. I just want to make sure my crossbowman has some protection. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Should I go 5? Because one of them could actually almost reach him with a very spirited charge, since they can run 8. But yeah, then that one would get ganked up on. So I'm going to do that. Next card. See there? It's one of their spearmen. So now you can't charge him. They can't charge because they cannot see him. You have to be able to see who you're charging. And I don't know if that's in the rule, but that's implicit. So this guy gets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's coming around there. 3 of hearts. That is actually one of the swordsmen. And this is what I was worried about. He could have charged him if he could have seen him. I don't think he can see him around here, so I'm not going to give him a charge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But he is getting up there. So this is going to come to arms very quickly. Next card. The Queen. So this is one of their archers, which I don't think they can see him. Let me check. I mean, he could probably see him. I don't know what the range on a short bow is. Let me check that on my table. Because it looks like that's at least 12 or 13 inches away. So, what is the range on a short bow? Dagger, missile weapon. A short bow can go... So anything over 11 inches would have a -4 modifier to hit, would only roll 1 damage die, which I don't even know if that would affect him. So I don't think they're going to take that. I think it's just going to move and try to get to this hill. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then it has to stop. I will see how it gets up there next turn. Next card. Another face card. So another one will run. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they are in first contact with that hill. Next card. The other one, man, I got to shuffle them better. So this one is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He did not quite make it into base contact. If you can see there. The next card. 10 of hearts. So something got shuffled. The heart is the swordsman. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, if the spears can get behind the swordsman, they can support them. Next card. The diamond. Or no, that's just a face card, so that would be an archer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he's not quite touching. 2 of them are touching it, which means I think they can go up it next turn. The 7 of spades. So the spades are my regular swordsmen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they can only move 6. They're not fast as little goblins. The 6 of hearts is the other goblin swordsman. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the 6 of spades, which is another swordsman. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they are moving their wall up slowly, which is good. The 7 of clubs is one of our crossbowmen who really has no good shot, but I'm going to move him over here. He will just come into your view. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he is taking up an angle next turn where he can get a shot. Although that might be a little long for his crossbow. Next card. The champion can now move. So you see the first card with the champion, he did not get to move because he did not want to move ahead of his line. But because he's a champion, he now gets another card. And now he can actually do a move action, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he is right there behind his men who are leading him off the table. And we've got one more card on this side, which is our other spade, which we will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that creates a zone of control. So anything within 2 inches of him would have to stop and engage him before it could get to that crossbowman. And that's why I moved him there. So he creates that zone of control. Later on, you could spread them out, right? So just say if you wanted to do like this, and you could protect your crossbowmen because you have that zone of control. So that's kind of a very important feature in the game. Next card. These should all be the goblins. So that's the other spearmen, and this will be the other spearmen. And so they are going to come up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now they are moving to where they can support. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 2 spearmen can support each other. And so that is how we look at the end of turn 1. And then all we would do is shuffle the deck again. Since nobody died, there's no cards that are going to come out. And we will start turn 2. Okay, we are going to start turn 2. And this is like one of the most interesting parts of a turn is who's going to get that first card. It's sort of like boat action. Who's going to get that die? Because that could make a difference. A 3 of diamonds. So that is one of the goblin spearmen. Now, one thing you will notice in this game, or I want you to notice, is how because these figures are acting individually in skirmish mode, it is going to be very difficult for them to kind of act concertedly and act together. That is what captains would allow you to do. But because there's no captain on the field, everybody's doing their own thing, right? And so pay attention to that. So now you have one spearman who has to decide whether he wants to run up and make his first attack or put them in danger or whatever. Obviously, being a spearman and being goblins, they don't care. They know what they're here to do. I'm going to give him a charge because they really... Oh, he only rolled a 1. It's way down here. But he gets 8, which would give him 9, so I think he will still get in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And he is charging this crossbowman. Now, let's work out what he is going to need to score a hit on the crossbowman. Okay, so before I resolve this, I did want to clarify one thing. I think I said when I was reviewing the rules that if you are attacked, you can defend yourself. And I didn't want to misunderstand that to say you get to attack back. Defending yourself is simply whatever you have that is a defense, like a shield, your armor, and things like that. So you do not, it's not like they attack you, then you roll for a free attack against them. And I did want to clarify that because I think I misspoke when I said If you attack somebody, they attack you back. They will do a defense action, but there's really no defense action because you don't use an action to defend yourself. You just work out your defense. So in this case, the goblin serfs have attack of 5. He is wielding a spear, which is a +2, which would give him a 7. Okay, the human defender, he does not have a shield. The crossbowman has no shield, so his defense is a 7. So it would be a 7 versus a 7. So I know usually that means I think I'd need to roll a 12 or higher. But because he charged, let's see here, to attack value, if, let's see here, I think charge is going to be a +2. That should have been in here in the modifiers. All right, so because he charged, he gets a +2, which would put him up to a 9 versus a 7. He will also get 2 additional damage dice. Normally, a spear rolls... What is the spear roll? I think a spear has 2 damage dice. So normally a spear has, that's 3 penetration, 3 damage dice. So he gets 3 for a spear, and he gets 2 for charging. So that's how much damage dice he has now. He is at a 9 versus a 7. Like I said, he has no armor, no shield or anything, unfortunately. You know, and I was afraid of moving him out that far. So when we consult our chart, and like I said, most of these will become pretty easy to remember. If you are attacking with a 9, your opponent is a 7, you go down to where the 2 meet, and that means you need to roll a 9 or higher, right, to make a successful attack. He has 1 attack, so he needs 1d20, a 9 or higher. He only rolled a 3. So the attack misses, fortunately for them. And so we don't have to worry about resolving that any further because he missed. And so now we can pull the next card. Goblins do not have a very high attack value. The face card, which is the champion. So what can the champion do now? So once again, I think the champion is kind of standing here letting other people move or act because he doesn't want to expose himself. If they kill the champion, they win the game. So I think he's going to stay there. Oh, one of their archers. So their archers, I think one of them are going to try to get up this terrain. Let's see. Okay, so there's no specific climbing rules in here. But there are rules if the terrain is difficult, you move half. So I'm going to allow them to do 4 inches to come up here, but I'm not going to allow him to move any further. And because he only gets 1 action, that's the only thing he can do. But he does have the higher elevation. So a 6 of heart, this is one of the swordsmen's. He is definitely going to charge. Just roll to make sure. Rolling a 1 on a charge does nothing. So now we already resolved he has a sword instead of a spear or a long knife. So he will get a +3. He's attack 5, which would make him an 8. A +2 for charging, he becomes a 10. He only has two combat dice, but he gets 2 damage dice, but he gets 2 more for his charge. So now we are dealing with an attack of 10 versus a defense. This guy has a shield, though. So this is not as easy. His shield, I think he has a regular round shield, which would increase his defense from 7. Let's see what it's going to increase it by. So the round shield is +2. So his defense becomes 9. So it is a 10 versus a 9. He will also lose 1d6 damage die because he has a shield. So that shows you how important a shield can be. So let's see here. A 10 versus a 9. And we need 10s. He needs a 10 or higher on a d20 for this attack to come home. He rolled a 6. So that is not enough. Goblins are not very good combatants. But once some of the modifiers add up, they'll do better. A 5 of hearts. It's another sword goblin. So he's going to repeat this charge. He is going to take this other guy here because I don't think he wants to let that guy be free and not in combat. So again, a 10 versus a 9. We need 10s. He rolled another 6. So that is another miss. And like I told you, after a while, you will remember the table. A 6 of spades. So a spade is one of the swordsmen. So now one of these guys can do a combat action, which he is going to do. He is a man-at-arms, so he has a short sword, a round shield. His short sword is a +3. His attack is a 7. Unfortunately, he is not charging. He has 3 combat dice. 3 damage dice. His penetration, which I haven't been checking the penetration, but I think that's only on the damage roll, the save rolls. So now this goblin does have a wicker shield, which doesn't take away any damage dice, but it does add to his defense. So he is being attacked with a 10 versus the goblins whose normal defense is 5 +1 for his shield. He would go up to a 6. So now it is a 10 versus a 6. And if the attacker is 10 versus a 6, he only needs a 7 or higher. So I'm going to give them one of the blacks. I've been rolling the blue for the goblins. And he rolled a 10. So I'm glad he struck home with that. So now we will roll for damage. He has 3d6 damage dice. Looking for 5s or 6s. Now normally if he had got a charge, that 4 would be a hit. But because he did not charge, he's got 6s. Each 6 does 2 wounds. These goblins have a maximum of 3 wounds. So he has killed the first goblin. Just like that. Next card. Red Heart. That is another one of the archers. I'm going to get this other one who's been waiting. Let him get up there. So they're going to have to deal with them. And if they attack them from the bottom of the cliff there, which I wouldn't even allow them to do that, but they suffer a -2. And if they move up there, I'm going to make them suffer a -2 to their attack value. Next card. 7 of clubs. So that is now one of our crossbowmen. And this crossbowman can actually fire at one of them on the hill. And so I need to measure that. Okay. So they are, say they're about 5 away. So he is firing a crossbow. The crossbow is, let's see here. Did I put the stats for the crossbow in here? Let's look on the weapons table. His accuracy is 8. The crossbow is I don't know. I really like this game. It's a little bit of looking up, but I just like because it seems like you're doing something different all the time. Like you're not really just doing the same stuff over and over again. So the crossbow is an 8. Let me look this up. Okay, so this will be a good chance to show you some things. So on this table here with the crossbow, they are 6 inches away, which is right in the short range. So you have point blank, short, medium, long, and expert. Expert, you cannot fire that range unless you are an expert or you have the expert ability. Crossbow at 6, which is medium, would be a 0 modifier, and it would roll 2 damage dice. It's a broken chord if he rolls a 20 on his result. He'd need 2 turns to repair that. So if he has no modifier, his accuracy is 8. Now I looked up other modifiers. He would normally get a 2 because they are elevated and he's shooting up. But he loses a 2 because they have already moved. So he is at an 8 again. Now, remember when you are doing missile fire, you now want to roll an 8 or lower, right? You do not want to roll above the number like you would normally do when you're cross-referencing it, because there's no cross-referencing on this. So you must roll lower than your accuracy value when firing a weapon. And it says, the reason I did this was I didn't want missile fire to be relative, meaning if you can shoot, you can shoot. It doesn't matter how good your target's defensive skill is. That being the case, no table would be used, which meant I needed a straight-up number that could be modified to indicate a hit or miss. Using the standard D20 roll used in the game, this would have put me in the awkward position of having one statistic on the character profile where a low number was actually good. Not only did I think that was too confusing, it also meant good modifiers like aiming would have to use negative numbers. So that's just kind of my rationale on why you roll low. Let me check aiming, because I think you need to do an action to aim. So I don't want to miss it out if you can. Okay, so aiming won't apply because you need to have 2 actions to aim, which most troopers don't. They're just firing. 3, so he hit. He hit. Now, and they have no defensive things whatsoever. And I think we said he gets 2 damage dice. Remember, we are needing 5s or 6s. A 4 and a 1. So that does no damage. He hit the guy and did no damage. That was interesting. But we will carry on. Next card. Now my champion can move again. This time, I think I'm going to leave him there. I mean, I just don't see. They got to get him through. None of his guys have fallen. And I'm not going to expose him. I don't think the archers have a shot. They got to shoot some of them people out of his way. Next card. The 4 of spades. That is another swordman. So this guy is now going to strike there. I think we said he would be a 10. He has a short sword, which is +3. His attack is 7, which is 10. He would get 3 damage dice. He's not charging, so he doesn't get anything from there. He is going against a goblin with a shield. So the goblin is 5 + 1 would be 6, I think I said. So it would be a 10 versus a 6, which I think I said was, didn't I say it was 10 last time? 10 versus a 6, he needs to roll 7 or less. So let's see. They've been doing pretty good. I mean 7 or higher, I'm sorry. So he rolled a 4. Yeah, sometimes you get confused after the archer fire. He did not hit. So we will do the next card. 10 of hearts. That would be one of these. They're going to run a charge. 5. 8 + 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now he has to stop. He cannot go past him to this guy. Although he is in combat, so he could do that. So I'm going to let him do that actually, because your zone of control is negated if you are in combat, to give you an example of how the zone of control works. So he's going to charge this guy. I think we determined that he is attacking with a 5. Long knife would make him an 8. A charge would make him a 10. And I think we said these guys are 9 because they are defending with a 7 and a +2 shield. So I think I said he needed to roll a 10. 10 versus 9. Let me double check that. Yep, he needs to roll a 10 or higher. 19. Woo! He almost got a fatal blow with a 20. So now how much attack dice did he get? He gets 2 for his long knife He gets 2 for the charge, but he loses 1 because he has a shield. And charges he will hit on 4s. So he has 3 wounds. These guys can take 5 wounds though. So they are not dead. The goblins can only take 3. Or serfs. But so he has 3 wounds. He can take 5. You know, or you could put a small die next to him. And you can either do how many wounds he has left, or you can mark how many wounds he's taken. I like to mark how many they've taken, because that way I just know, hey, he's 2 wounds away from dying. If you mark how many they have left, sometimes you forget whether that's actually how many they have left or how many they've already taken. I'm going to get some of these little bitty dice out of here. I bought these things at a convention. I like these. And so I might mark some of them with those. But for now, it's not too cluttered. So that was not a bad move for the goblins. Next card. 5 of spades. That is a swordsman. So I'm going to activate this guy who is now going to attack. Now, normally I know he is an 8. No, he is a 7 plus 3 for his short sword is 10. Right? But he minuses 1 because that goblin has a shield, which makes him a 9. But he is also now wounded. So it says half or more of total wounds. Yes, he does have that. So that would be a -2. Oh, holding a shield, that's another -1. So now he is a -3. Okay. He's not fighting more than 1 opponent. Okay, his size is not 2 sizes higher. So he is at a total of -2 plus a -1. So he is a -3. I didn't know that you -1 for holding the shield. I should have been doing that with the goblins too. So, but it evens out. But I will do it from now on. So he is a 10. He goes down to a 3, which would be a 7. I think his defense is a 6. So it is a 7 versus a 6. That is going to be a lot harder. I think he's going to need a 12. Let me see here. 7 versus a 6. No, he still needs a 10. Oh, crap. That went off the table. 14. Ho, ho, he hit. He hit with a 14. I did not even add his damage dice. I didn't think he was going to hit. So let's see. The short sword gets 3 damage dice, but he did not charge. And that wicker shield does not take away any dice like a regular shield would. So he's got 2 wounds on him. Now, so we see here the goblin actually survived. They have 3 wounds. So in many instances, people with like 3 wounds or whatever, you'll never have to keep track of them. But he survived, so I put a little bitty die on there that shows that he has 2 wounds, which I don't know if you can see it. I mean, you can barely see that die, but that's nice. You know, and I don't really have to worry about it coming off. So just thought I'd show you guys that. Next card. Another swordsman. So this one is going to, I think he's going to try a charge. I think he needs at least, he's going to try to charge this crossbowman, believe it or not, from that distance. 4. So that's 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now the reason I had him do that was because he was still in combat, he could ignore his zone of control. And he went right in for the crossbowman. So he has 2 for a spear, 2 for the charge. The crossbowman has no shield, so he won't lose 1 for that. But he is holding a sword. He is holding a shield of his own, so he will suffer a -1. He is normally a 5 plus 3 is 8. -1, he is a 7. His defense is just his straight up defense is a 7. So it is a 7 versus a 7, which I'm sure will be another 10. 7 versus 7. No, that is an 11. He needs to roll an 11 or higher. Let's roll a red die for him. Oh, he hit it right on the nose. He rolled 11. So let's see if he can do some damage now, because with the charge, he will kill on 4, 5, or 6. So he got 1, 2 hits. Not enough for a kill. Not enough for a kill, but he did put 2 wounds on these guys. And like I said, I think these humans can take 5 wounds. That's kind of the average in the game for humans. But he has 2 wounds now. Next card. Okay, the next card we get is a 7 of spades. So I think that is another swordsman. Which swordsman hasn't acted yet? Because the clubs are the crossbowmen. So this swordsman, I think he attacked already. Oh, this one back here is not activated. Yeah, I need to get something to mark the ones that have acted. I don't really know if I'm going to need it this turn, but next turn I will. So this swordsman is going to attack this spear guy. So he is normally a 7. He gets +3, which would make him a 10. He minuses 1 because he's carrying a shield, which would make him a 9. He minuses 1 because, does that spearman have a shield? No, he doesn't. So he would stay at a 9. A 9 versus a goblin spearman who has a defense of 5. So a 9 versus a 5. This should be a pretty good roll for him. He only needs a 7 or higher. 16. And he's not going to lose any dice. He get 3 for that sword. Oh, and he only got 1 wound. He only put 1 wound on the goblin. That's a little below average. If he had got 1/6, he would have killed him. Next card. Queen of Diamonds. So that is one of the archers. Those 2 on top have moved. This one here, I am actually going to give him a shot at this guy here. So that archer is going to fire. That is a range of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So he has a short bow. Let's see what range band that is for a short bow. Because last time we checked, it was a crossbow. So a short bow has a range, anything 7 or below is short range. So he will get a +2. He will get 2 damage dice. Okay. His accuracy for a goblin is only 3. So that would go to a 5. Man, they're terrible shots. So he should need to be up close right in his face. He needs a 5 or less. And he rolled a 12. He wasn't even anywhere close to actually hitting this guy. And I'm going to start marking the ones that have done stuff. Just so I don't get confused about who has or hasn't acted. I got some little action markers I like to use in my games. Take some of them out. I know most of these have acted, but just for the archers for now, I'm just going to put that action marker on him. Next card. And this is another face card for the red, which would be the other archer. And this guy is nowhere in range. I think I'm going to put him up against... I think I'm going to put him to try to go up here too. So that's 1. He'd have 3 left. So I'm going to give him enough to get up there. Because I don't think that thing is... taller than 3 inches. No, it's about 2.5. So I'm gonna let him climb up there too. He might have to move again next time to get into a position to shoot, but at least he's up there. Next card. 10 of clubs. That's our crossbowman. Now this one is in combat, so he cannot fire. And this one has already fired, even though I didn't put a thing on him. So he could do a combat with this guy, or he could try a breakaway, which I talked about. Now, if he did a combat, he has no weapon. So it would be like a fist fight. And let me look that up, see if that's worthwhile. Okay, so I'm going to do this fist fight just for the fun of it. He probably won't do much wound, but we'll walk you through it. So in a fist fight, instead of the normal stats, you confer their strength values. Both of them have a strength of 3. I can tell you that now. So this crossbowman would need to roll an 11 or higher. For every 3 parts of strength, you get 1 damage die to roll. And you hit on a 4, 5, or 6, but everything is a 1. A 6 is not two wounds. As far as rolling 1s or anything, those are ignored. If you roll a 20, it is considered a knockout. So basically, this guy needs to roll a, what did I say, 3 versus 3. He needs an 11 or higher. And he hit. He got a 16. So he gets 1 damage die. 6. So he did 1 wound in the fist fight. Right? And that is how you do a fist fight. It's just that simple. The other guy, I think the shields do not matter in a fist fight. Armor is more effective, meaning the effect of armor is double, but the effect of shields is not mentioned in a fist fight. So I think that was a good example of how a fist fight works for you. So now let's just see the next card. A 9 of diamonds. That is one of the spearmen. So they have been kind of lurking back there out of the scene. Let's see what they are going to do. I don't think they're going to try a charge, although this one maybe could get here, but that would mess up his ability to support in later turns. So I think he's going to go here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And just get behind there. Next card. Another spearman is going to come up now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And he doesn't have anybody to get behind. 7. So he can attack there, but because he did not declare a charge, he will not get a charge bonus. So he's going to do a straight up attack since he's there against that crossbowman. I should have probably declared the charge, but I was trying to support. So I'm not going to let him take it back. He gets a +2. His attack is 5. It goes to 7. This crossbowman has no armor or anything. So he just has his regular defense. So he has a 7. He gets no, like I said, he gets no bonus for that. He gets 2 damage dice. A 7 versus a defense of 7. So I think that is going to be an 11 that he needs to roll. Let's cross-reference that. 7 versus 7 is an 11. Let's see if he rolls 11 or higher. Oh, he did it again. Just got the 11. Let's see how much damage he does. He cannot kill him because the most he could get is 2 6s, which would be 4. And he has 5 wounds. He rolled a 4, which is not a hit because he did not charge. If he had charged, that would have been a wound. But he didn't. The last card is the last spearman, who is going to repeat. And he's going to pull up right there. And they're hoping to get those supports in next turn to kind of kill off some of these guys. Now, this is where we stand next turn. The goblins are ferocious. They are pressing in. The problem is they're not good shots. So you got all them archers up here on the hill that cannot hit the back of a barn. They're not good fighters. So you got all these guys running in, charging, but barely damaging anybody. But we do got some of the humans that are wounded. The champion has really not been in the game. He's just standing around with this melee breaking out around him. You know, maybe he will try to break out and break free. The problem is, you know, does he want to give his back to these archers? Or does he want to risk them running on down that hill and ganging up on him? So we will see next turn. Hey guys, so we are back. This is the last round of the game. I've been playing it off on camera. You have not really missed anything. These guys have been locked in combat the whole time. And then a lot of 2s and 3s rolling. The humans have managed to kill off some 5 of the goblins' forces. So all of those cards have been taken out of the deck. But unfortunately, they've been in just a bitter stalemate here in the middle of the battlefield. The humans have a lot of wounds, but nobody has died yet. None of them have gotten to the 5 wound threshold. The crossbowmen have been tied up in combat, so they couldn't shoot because they were tied up in combat. I kept the commander back for a while, just helping out and kind of doing nothing. And finally, I decided to start moving him. So you can see he's prepared to go right off the edge of the board this turn. And that's pretty much going to call it. I did do one thing wrong was these crossbowmen were very ineffective. I mean, their accuracy is 3. Because really they're serfs or goblins, which means they would never have fired it. So I would probably have given them higher instead of just using that for the goblins. But their accuracy is 3, but they actually should have been getting 2 shots per turn. I've only been giving them 1. So that might have made a little bit of difference. Not much the way the rows have been going. But actually it was a very fun game. I always enjoy playing this game. This is probably the most figures I've had on the board at one time in a solo game. And it does take a long time to go through everybody's turns, especially without the commander. So I wasn't able to do any command actions, which probably would have ended this game a long time ago because, for example, a commander could have activated all 3 of these guys to attack one dude and just get rid of them. Instead, they're kind of just standing there fighting back and forth, swords clanging, nobody really coordinating their stuff, and they're just not getting any kills on either side. Like I said, some of the goblin swordmen fell early, but I hope that gives you a feel for the game. The game has a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of things you can do in the game. I did a fist fight. I don't know if I showed you guys. I don't remember. I had one guy roll a 1 on one of his attacks, so he missed. And this guy had a potential counter attack, but he didn't make it pay off, which basically gave him a die. This guy did a breakaway that you didn't see on camera, which actually succeeded. And the way the breakaway works is if you succeed, they get a free attack, which the guy took, only put 1 more wound on him. But if you fail, they don't get a free attack. You just stay there in the combat. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I didn't want to film the whole thing. I mean, the video was already getting long. But that is a fatal blow. I will do a quick recap. Actually, I'm not even going to do a recap. I mean, this is my game. I'm not going to really try to do a review or a recap of my own game. But let me know if you guys got any questions or anything. Take care. God bless.